In today's video, we're going to go into yogis that have splayed ribs. So I see this so often in the practice where ribs splay out in the yoga practice. And why we want to address this issue is because when our ribs splay out, we actually collapse into our kidneys. And anywhere that the organs do not have space, any part of their body that is squished or smushed or has wrinkles or crinkles, these are parts of the body that we want to address because this is where current or energy cannot flow through the body. So dis-ease thrives in a condensed environment, right? And that's why this yoga practice is all about creating space in the body, right? Whenever we're sitting hard on ourselves or we're squishing into our organs or glands, they're not having the space that they need to truly function optimally. And just such a common occurrence that I see is in these splayed ribs, because where our ribs know how to operate is from the front, right? So we have our rib cage that goes around, right? Our whole upper body that is encasing our lungs, that is the container for the lungs. And where the ribs have an opening is right on the front of the body. And so when we become very accustomed to inhaling and exhaling only on the front of the ribs, rather than 360 degrees like the body is meant to breathe in, then our ribs end up having an overflexibility on the front side, and then our muscles on the back get dense. And so if you're the type of person that knows that your ribs are always sticking out in the yoga practice, I was one of these people, then you can rest assured that these muscles back here are probably pretty tight because they're not getting enough air in them. So this is what we want to really learn how to address, is how do you access this back without actually overworking the muscles? And so of course, everyone's body is going to be different. But this video specifically is going to address really the curves of the spine and how to pull your ribs back in a way that ensures that you're not actually sitting back on your tail, right? And so what we want to learn in this practice is proper posturing. When you center yourself between your pubis and your coccyx, and you're sitting right on your pelvic floor, right? This is the first floor of the body. You're really positioning yourself in the middle of your lower body. And what this does is it gives you the foundation in which your spine to be for the conditions in which your spine can be more aligned. And so when we're sitting back on our tails, we take all of the natural curves out of the spine because we've already lost the natural curve of the lower back. And for a lot of people, what I will see is right when this happens, and I tell them to back bend or to bring the front body forward, then they just bring the chest forward right here. And now all of a sudden I have the reverse curvature in my spine, right? My lower back has the reverse curvature, and now my thoracic spine has the reverse curvature. And then the shoulder blades aren't sitting properly on the rib cage, right? And then we start to get shoulder injuries. And that's why I am launching my shoulder series that is starting soon. So if you do know that you have shoulder issues, that you have rib issues, like this whole casing of the upper body, this is the series for you because it's really going to allow you to use your upper body intelligently so that you have, healthy shoulders into into old age, so that you really know how to breathe properly, because when we're not breathing, our body already starts to shut down. And so we really want to be conscious of how we're posturing our spine, because our spine is moving the circuitry, right, of our brain through our whole entire body. We really want to know how to find true alignment. And so again, this is when you're centered right between your pubis and your coccyx. So I'm not too far forward on my pubic bone because now I can feel this in my lower back. My ribs are shooting out, right? And nor am I too far back on my tail, because then this is taking me out of my hip joint. My psoas are getting tight, breathing is getting constricted, and then my organs aren't open on the front of the body. And so when we're addressing this issue, I really like to do it first on a chair, because if you have tight hips, it's going to be really hard to sit on the ground and find this positioning. You can measure your feet hip distance, which is when you just take your two fists between the center of your arches and then walk your big toes in. So from the second toe through the center of the heel, these 2 points are going to be parallel with one another, right? And so your feet will feel like they're maybe slightly turned in a little bit, like your toes are slightly turned in, but it's not, it's center, right? Second toe through the center of the heel, parallel with one another. So when your toes are turning out, right, you're going to be collapsing into your sacrum. When your toes are turning too far in, you're collapsing on your inner groin. So it's just going to create different tightness in the muscles, which again, we want to get rid of all of this unnecessary tension so you're not wasting energy in your body. And so with your feet on the ground, pressing them evenly, right? Pressing both feet evenly with your knees, also 2 fist distance, right? Which is your hip distance so that they're not too close. And if it's really hard to keep that, you can always put a block and strap your legs up. But we're going to use the block for a different purpose. So if you only have one block, just keep it. So you want to position yourself right up against a wall. And so you can use, I like a yoga chair because it's backless, right? You can also use like a stool, right? Or you can sit up on whatever you need to sit up on so that you have access to the wall behind you. You can also sit like this in your car if you're finding like you're in your car a lot and you have poor posture in your car, right? Because the car is designed for us to sit like this, close down all of our organs, right? Get neck pain and shoulder pain because our head is too far forward. So these back muscles are having to support the weight of our head, which is very heavy. And so all of this is how can we find the center of ourselves so we're not actually having to waste energy by using muscles that don't need to be working to just sit ourselves up. Right? And so when we're in the center, it's when we draw a line from the universe through our skull, through our throat, through our torso, through our perineum, and into the center of the earth. The moment we're in the center, right, the spine is right behind it with these beautiful natural waves that is going to allow, right, the organs and the glands to be fed through the circuitry that is moving through the spinal column, right, from your brain. And so what we're really looking at doing is lining it all up so that all the switches are open, essentially, so that your body is working as one harmonious unit. And so you want to position yourself at the perfect distance from the wall, and I'll show you how to find that. You want to take yourself right between your pubis and your coccyx and feel what it feels like to really be centered in your lower body. So everything in your lower body is dealing with food, sex, money, water. It's your stability, it's your substantiation. It's how you hold your ground. It's how you really create a good foundation for yourself. So it all has to start from your lower body. Everything from your diaphragm to your throat is your middle body, right? It's your competency. It's how you go out into the world. It's how you shake hands. It's how you handle it. It's really your relationship with what is outside of you. And then everything from your head up is really your vision. It's you looking out, seeing where you're headed, being able to see it so that you can drive the course of your life, right, through your body. And so when you find yourself centered between your pubis and coccyx, now, in order to address these ribs, for a lot of us, if our spine is kind of stuck and we begin to pull the ribs in, we are going to find that we end up sitting back on our tail. And so I am going to teach like a rib releasing technique in the shoulder series. So make sure you do sign up for that if you do know that your ribs get pretty tight or your breathing gets constricted. But for now, what I am going to share with you is a really simple practice where all you're going to do is to take the block either on the wall or on the backing of the chair. And you're just going to be able to press your thoracic spine, which is your upper rib cage, right? Where your rib cage is right between your two shoulder blades, back into the block. And so you want to scooch your butt back enough so that you're again centered between your pubis and your coccyx. But what this block is going to do is it's going to give you something to anchor into. And now as you pull these ribs in, the ribs are pulling in towards center as you're pressing your back into the block. And so you're going to be pressing your feet into the ground. You're going to feel like this is a very active seat. And you're not doing it in a way that you're pulling your shoulders in. Your shoulders are soft. But as you pull your sternum back in space and you anchor this block into the wall, what you're doing is you're actually setting the shoulder blades on the rib cage. So now the rib cage isn't too far forward because again, when the rib cage is too far forward, the shoulders stay where they are. And now you have this spacing where they're meant to be held together, right? Making contact. And now all of these tendons and ligaments that connect the shoulder blade to the rib cage are vulnerable for injury. And so just by pulling your ribs in, pressing the back of your back into the wall, you're going to feel a very different alignment here. And this is working the natural ways of your spine. So your sacrum curls back, your lower back curls in, your thoracic spine curls back, and then your neck curls in, and then your head obviously curls back. And so your neck and your lower back are meant to be in alignment. They're also the most two vulnerable places of the spine because the sacrum has the whole pelvis. The thoracic spine has the whole rib cage, right? And your head is like the whole skull. Whereas the neck is, these are just the little vertebrae. And that's why a lot of people will experience disc degeneration or slip discs specifically in their lower back or neck, right? So we want to make sure that we're really lining ourselves up. Now, this same feeling that you feel when you pull your sternum back in space, you get to pull your head back in space so that your head isn't too far forward. Because when we're sitting on our tail all the time, we end up jetting our chin forward, cutting out the circulation on the back of the neck. So this is where we get tired, we get sluggish, we get headaches because all this tension is here and getting blocked. And now you can pull your head back in space so that your chin, now your palate is parallel, right? All these points are parallel. Your palate, your diaphragm, your pelvic floor, the crown of your head. These are all the floors of your body that we really want to line up. And now you get a moment to feel what it feels like, right? To pull your ribs in, to pull your head back in space, and to have your spine completely lined up. You lined up on your central channel and your spine having these natural waves that it was designed with. And so you can bring your block in your car and sit your bum back and then be holding onto your steering wheel and driving like this, especially on long trips so that you're not sacrificing, right, your back and your body for the trip. right? And so you can press your hands into your knees to really pull your sternum back and really get that feeling that you're pulling and drawing your ribs in towards center. Now, when you inhale, you'll feel the breath coming to the front, but you'll also feel the breath pressing into the back of the block so that your breath is moving in 360 degrees. And then as you exhale, you'll feel the breath let go. Again, inhale. And exhale. So what you're really working is this awareness of 360-degree breath. You're not just inhaling into the rib cage, but when you inhale, you're pulling the ribs in and allowing the breath to come to the back, to the sides, and to the front without letting your ribs jut out. And you should feel a lot taller when you do this. So this is just one thing I really wanted to share with you today because I've had a lot of comments about the flared ribs, about the tight muscles on the back. And so you can do this to help yourself out, to be able to anchor your sternum back, to anchor your head back so that you find this beautiful posture where you're not having to use all of your muscles to hold yourself up, where you're not sacrificing your organs and glands by closing them down and sitting back on your tail. And it will completely change how you go about your day-to-day because you will have a different posture, especially when you spend time in these formal practices, reforming your body, reprogramming your body. This does carry forward into your day-to-day because you feel how good it feels to be in center, and then you can really feel what it feels like to be out of center. But until you know what center feels like, what ease feels like, what space feels like, you'll have no idea that you're even misaligned. And so again, if you do want like a whole reformative practice on the rib cage, the shoulders, the lungs, the arms, and the hands, if you got any issues going on up here, my shoulder series is definitely the series that you're going to want to get into to really support yourself, to be able to work in your shoulders well, work in your upper body well, have breath that really gives you energy, invigorates you, transforms the way that you are in your body and the way that you are in the world, because lungs are our arms, our competency, our capacity, how we're handling situations. This all takes place in the field of our lungs and the energy of our lungs. And so I will actually leave, there's a free video. If you haven't watched it yet, you can grab, there's actually 3 videos. One on like why the lungs, why autumn, why now, why the shoulders, how it's all interrelated. The second video is on a pole exercise that you can do today to start to rebalance your shoulders. And then the third one is palm reading, where we're actually going to look at the imbalances in the palm of the hand so that we can learn to see these imbalances in our body, where we go too hard, where we don't go enough, so that we can start to clean up the misalignments in the body. So I'll leave that below, and I'll also leave the link to the shoulder series so that you can pop in there if you'd like, so that you can come join us live. The replays will be up in my app wherever. You'll get them, access to them to do all the time for the lifetime of the app. And thank you for joining me in this video. I really hope you give this a try. When you do it every single day, you will completely reprogram your body. So if you want more videos, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you